We now go to our next guest. Her name is Candice Holdsworth. She is a writer and broadcaster, and she's joining us down the line. Hello, Candice, how are you?
Hi, Jonathan. I'm good, thanks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And Candice, before we get on to talk about what's happening in Waterlooville, just to remind listeners the breaking news that more now officially, based on Home Office figures, more than 25,000 illegal migrants have come to the UK via small boats across the English Channel over the course of 2025. This now then will only add more fuel to the fire when it comes to public's mood on this, when residents called out the fact that there are secret Home Office plans to put 35 illegal migrants into 19 flats that would normally cost the top end of the market around 250,000 per flat. Waterlooville saw residents peacefully protest. Around 1,000 people showed up to say enough is enough. Candice, do you think the public are right to be out there outside asylum accommodation? Some would say that this endangers those, not just those inside the building, but those working on the facility, and actually undermines the cause because it will be hijacked by agitators on the far right.
Yeah, I think as long as it stays peaceful and non-violent, then it's okay. As soon as it becomes violent in any way, intimidates people, it menaces people, then it's wrong. I mean, that's the history of protest. You will be able to apply political pressure and affect change if you keep things peaceful. If you start becoming violent and you start hurting people, your movement will end up in tatters. That is what has happened throughout history. So if they want to have any influence whatsoever, keep it with ordinary people, keep it peaceful. I just think people feel it's their only option, that they're getting so sick of this. They vote to have change and no change happens. So that's when people take to the streets. And I think from what we see, from people on the ground who've attended these protests, it largely is just ordinary people. It isn't, mad, fanatical idiots who live their lives online and just want to cause trouble. There is quite a good cross-section of the community, and they just genuinely believe that politicians, locally and nationally, are doing something that they really, really disagree with. I mean, I know someone who visited Waterlooville recently, and he was shocked at just how neglected it's become. I mean, he was saying, like, the high street, there's so many shuttered shops. I mean, I think that's across the country. People feel like the local politicians are not prioritising the right things. And, of course, we know that housing is a big source of misery in this country. People can't afford a home, or if you're waiting for council housing, you can often wait on insanely long lists. And if you do manage to get accommodation, it's often not up to par. I mean, it can be really, really, really horrible. So I think that this policy of dispersing people around the country, it's adding to the misery, and I think it was only to be expected that people would be angry about this.
Do you think Keir Starmer is going to really struggle to ever regain credibility? The fact now we have 25,000 illegal migrants coming across the Channel in 2025 so far, a record-breaking year on course for Sir Keir Starmer compared to 2024, around 50% up today. 898 arriving yesterday. We obviously know the weather's a little bit rougher now, but we've still got the whole of August to go through, and then September, where obviously weather is expected to be much better. How much trouble is this going to cause Labour?
Oh, massive. I mean, I thought that this was going to happen from the minute they scrapped the Rwanda scheme. I thought that was the most foolish thing they could have done. I mean, that whole smashing the gangs only focuses on one side of the equation. It focuses on the supply side, so the traffickers, rather than what the Rwanda scheme did, which was focus on the demand side, the people paying the traffickers. They have no credible policy to do this. They will never be able to do it. I just think Labour thinks that any sort of thing which sort of limits people being able to come here, the demand side, they think it's cruel. So it kind of leaves them unable to face the problem head on. And I don't think they can recover from this. And, the problem is, though, the one problem is, even though the public are unhappy with what Labour are doing, and they absolutely are, the right has become very fragmented in this country. So when it comes to elections, even if people are unhappy, Labour could still win because people on the right are so unhappy with the right. So, that vote is all split. So we could just end up stuck with Labour for God knows how long, even though they're doing things we don't like.
We need to get the people on the right maybe into a room and hash out who's going to have a go, hey? But, yeah, I'm sure that the egos in that room would be quite extraordinary to be amongst, I suspect, and would never come to an agreement. And it couldn't be done over lunchtime because Kemi Badenoch obviously doesn't believe in a working lunch. We've obviously got another story here about middle classes face threat of higher bills to pay for net zero. Ofgem's launched a review of energy bill costs to protect low-income households. Jonathan Brearley, Ofgem's chief executive, has said that, and this always scares me when I see this phrase, progressive billing is a possibility. Whenever I see the word progressive in front of something, I think it's doomed to failure. He's saying about the fact that they're going to have to look at the fixed network costs that are put on energy bills in order to help pay for the decarbonisation of the grid. At the moment, that's around £300 of our bills that are on these fixed network costs, of an average bill of £1,720 a year, which has obviously risen sharply since 2019. President Trump, I think, was pretty damning about the wind turbines. He's obviously been very blunt on his Truth Social account about drill, baby, drill in the North Sea in order to excavate natural oil and gas that could be used in this country. Is Keir Starmer starting to lose the war when it comes to making the case for net zero? Or do you think he's just going to carry on doing it, but albeit maybe a bit more quietly?
Well, I think so. I mean, I think that it's one of the things that people are really exercised about, especially, Ed Miliband's proposals to build pylons all over the countryside. People are not happy about that at all. And like you say, when you talk about a progressive tax bill, it sounds moral to people, right? Those with the broadest shoulders should bear the greatest burden. But the problem is those people will just shrug off the burden because they don't want to be milked. No one wants to be milked. It's like wealth taxes. They don't work either. And I mean, the amount of people I speak to, people who have money, they're relatively middle class, they shouldn't be struggling, and yet they feel like they have no money to spare at the end of the month. And so many people I speak to now are saying, well, maybe I should just leave the country. That's what's going on. That's what people are feeling right now. So, I mean, this will go down like a cup of cold sick. I can absolutely promise you. And how would they define the boundaries as well? Who has money and who doesn't? Because I think the only data they said they have is on like housing bans, so how much people are paying in council tax. But you could have someone whose house on paper is worth quite a lot of money, but they're quite cash poor. They're not someone who could actually absorb rising energy. So I mean, the whole thing, it's not going to work. In theory, to someone who doesn't like who maybe thinks, well, the wealthy should just pay. Maybe they have certain ideas in their head. That's fine, but will it actually work? No, it won't work. It will just chase people away, or it will immiserate people like it's doing already. We have the highest energy bills in the world.
Well, as you say, Candice, my concern is, like you say, if you do on council tax bans, well, we know disproportionately people in more economically deprived parts of the country actually have a higher council tax because obviously it's not been reevaluated in many, many years, and London is able to get away with paying smaller amounts. And then if you go on energy consumption, well, how's that fair? Some people might live in homes that they've had for decades, generations, in fact, that might just naturally need to consume more energy, or they've not had the money to invest in solar or other sort of pro net zero type energy things, heat pumps that I'm highly sceptical of. So, at the end of the day, this just seems to, I just can't see how this works, and it'll just be hitting again the squeeze middle, won't it? Yet again in the pocket.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I mean, look at what middle class will be defined as. It'll be quite a low income that most people would think actually that's not middle class at all. Yeah, those are all really good points. I mean, there's a lot of older people, like you say, living in older houses. They may have been there 50, 60 years. They don't have a good cash flow. I mean, every month it's hard. They have to really squeeze the pennies. And you're just not going to be able to understand that if you look at data on such a broad basis. I mean, for me, I just can't understand why we can't have a common sense energy policy in this country. It's because I think net zero has become a religious belief.
Yep.
It has become an article of faith. And I think that someone like Ed Miliband is such a zealot when it comes to it. I mean, everyone can see that. We just need to do what they did in America and just put ourselves first, put our national interests first, be pragmatic. Use what we have for the time being instead of trying to create some utopia, because what happens throughout history, you just make everyone miserable. And that's what's happening now. No one is happy with this. There's obviously those of us who are skeptical of net zero, but there are people in the countryside who, they really love nature. They'll often talk about things like the disappearance of bees, but, they're not net zero fanatics. But they look at stuff like all these pylons and they're pretty unhappy about it because we have such beautiful, this country has the most beautiful countryside in the world. People come here. And, we shouldn't ruin that.
And another one, Candice, for me, before we let you go, is that Sick Note Britain drives numbers of jobless families to over 3 million. I mean, this is just yet another headache for Rachel Reeves in terms of the budget, but also another rod of Labour's own making, because ultimately, when they couldn't even cut 5 billion off 100 billion when it came to welfare because their own MPs rebelled so much. This is just a never-ending story. It says a record proportion of people out of work due to sickness or disability has driven the number of jobless households to over 3 million under Labour, new figures show. Almost 40% of people living in a house where not a single adult family member is employed is now out of work because they are sick or disabled. Meanwhile, the proportion of working age adults not in a job because they were unemployed, retired early, or because they were studying full-time fell last year. Candice, what's your view on this? How on earth are we going to sort out welfare Britain?
Yes, I mean, we absolutely have to. But the problem is like I say, we have a government in power that cannot do that. I mean, they have this, what I believe to be this sort of welfarist approach where they treat people like they're not capable of ever recovering or doing things for themselves. Once again, it's seen as cruel, right? To say to someone who, for whatever reason, is on sickness or disability benefits and is struggling to get off it, to say to them, listen, I promise you your life will improve. If you can start working and start earning your own money, you will feel so much better about yourself. You will have pride. You'll be able to go on holiday. You'll be able to buy a car. You'll love doing all that. Those things will be amazing for you. But we're just like there's just not that thinking amongst the political elite. They think that anyone who wants to tackle this issue is trying to attack disabled people, which of course they're not. There's nothing kind about locking people in worklessness, not at all. I mean, now you've got something like 20% of certain cities where people are on these disability benefits, which has just rocketed since the pandemic. I mean, no wealthy developed country will stay a wealthy developed country for long if this continues, because the welfare bill is just ballooning and ballooning and ballooning and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There are people, of course, who, we need to help out in society, but these are generally people who, with a bit of encouragement and a bit of help, could work and could be productive and could contribute to society. And it's such a waste of human potential. It's a real criminal waste of human potential.
Absolutely. Candice Holdsworth, Common Sense for Great Britain there on our channel, the home of Common Sense on Talk. Thank you so much. A good friend of ours here on the station, writer and broadcaster Candice Holdsworth, kindly joined us there to take you through more of the stories.